Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2018, directed by Panos Cosmatos, and this film is called Mandy. So Mandy tells the story of a happily married couple. They live in a very remote land by themselves, and so it's basically free of the busy lifestyle, and this is what they want. So you've got the husband, played by Nicolas Cage, who's a lumberjack, and you've got the wife, who has a very vivid imagination, and she's a very bubbly character and very strange individual, but they have a lot of love for each other. So their peaceful existence is going to be shattered one day upon the arrival of a cult. Now one day this woman is walking down a lonely stretch of road and a car passes her belonging to a cult. Now the cult leader makes eye contact with this woman and immediately he's captivated and he says to his followers she needs to be in his company, and so the followers take her, but unfortunately something happens that results in the brutal killing of this woman in front of her husband. So the husband is all badly beaten up, he's left for dead, but he gathers himself enough not to self-destruct in despair, but to gain enough anger in order to exact brutal revenge upon the culprits and basically give them as much pain as possible. So whether or not he can is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Mandy. This is a prime example of a film that is very paper thin as far as the story is concerned, but completely redeemed by the absolute phenomenal visuals and the experience that Panos Cosmatos takes the viewer on. This is a movie that you actually live. This is a movie that you would experience, and it's an experience that is a fever-pitch nightmare. When I was very young, I used to get very sick, and I couldn't breathe properly because my throat would swell up, and during these periods in my childhood, I'd have very vivid nightmares, and nightmares that I would actually become very sweaty with, and these were horrible experiences. And I will say that Mandy brought back those experiences in that childhood, and this is something that made me feel very uncomfortable, and I actually loved it. Now I don't, I'm not a sadist, I don't love pain and suffering, but this is something that a horror film should do. This is a movie that will actually make you feel very uneasy. This is a very haunting experience, and this is an experience that is brought to life through the very vivid and surreal imagery that you're seeing. And this is something is very different within a very tired subgenre of revenge films. On the inside, you got a movie about a man exacting revenge because his loved one has been brutally killed. We've seen that time and time again. But the reason why you should see this film is that the way the movie is told, through its visuals, through its audio, it's basically an assault on the senses. This is a phenomenally well-made film. In this movie, the overall visuals play a character of its own, and that visuals just grabs you by the throat, hits you over the head, and doesn't stop hitting you until the very end. And this is something that you don't get in a lot of horror films, and I think it really needs to be applauded, because Panos Cosmatos is definitely a director you need to look out for. Now Mandy was hyped to no end before seeing this film, and I was very skeptical about that because a lot of the time these films don't live up to the hype. But this is a guy who made a movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is once again a very surreal horror film that I haven't actually seen yet. I've got the DVD, and after seeing Mandy I'm really looking forward to watching that film. But this is a guy who really made a name for himself, and so many people were praising Mandy as being the horror film that we were all waiting for. And so on one hand I was skeptical, on the other hand I was very excited because I love these types of movies, and I'm a fan of Nicolas Cage. Now Nicolas Cage recently has been basically laughed at. He's a bit of a joke, and basically the way he overacts, and so on one hand again I was skeptical, but I really liked his character in this film because I think his over the top acting really suited this role. This is a movie that's not trying to hit you with realism. This is a movie that's having a lot of fun playing with your sort of emotions. This is a very scary film, but it's a caricature world. It feels like a grindhouse movie. If you're a fan of grindhouse films, you'll really like the way that Panos Cosmatos paints his characters, and all these characters, even in the loving tender moments, feels very uneasy because the overall darkness of the film, the visuals, it plays a role where it's making you feel very uneasy. It's very creepy. Even these tender moments between husband and wife feel very creepy. So there's no seeking refuge, there's no safe spot that the film has. A lot of these horror films, it's all fun and games at the start, and then towards the end it starts to get into the horror moments, but this movie felt like a horror film from the first minute to the last minute, and it's based on the fact that the character of the visuals plays such and basically a strong emphasis on everything that is going on. And so the acting from Nicolas Cage was good. I thought the acting from the woman who plays the wife was very interesting. I thought her character was the best because she had that very creepy look. On one hand she was beautiful, but on the other hand she had that creepiness that was just the underlying factor in actually producing that sense of panic, producing that sense of dread. And that dread and cruelty that the film has basically has a lot of is emphasised through subtlety, and so those subtleties mixed in with the extravagant sort of moments of the violence and the overall revenge sort of feel that the film has gives it that grindhouse world, and that world and the mythology that the director manages to create makes it a film that you are going to remember. And so it's one of the most unnerving experiences I've had. I love the way it looked, and I love the way it made me feel when I was watching this movie. It never got boring, and I thought the continuity was absolutely fantastic. The violence was very nasty. It's not so nasty that it feels like a movie is just trying to shock you for the sake of it, but it's basically, it plays a vital role because the movie is banking on its therapeutic violence. Basically, it's the violence that you want to see. Horrible things happen to horrible people, and this is actually what happens, and I thought it was very satisfying to see some of these people get what was coming to them. And so the only problems I have with the film is that if you do strip it away of all of its style, it does have a very simplistic plot. The characters, although they are very creepy and very unique in the way they look and the overall environment that's shaping these characters, I still thought that I didn't care as much about them. I just wanted to go on this hellish journey, basically this nightmare-fueled and experience in this nightmare-fueled situation, that I was experiencing it for myself as opposed to experiencing it for these characters. I didn't really like them as much as I thought I would have in other films, but the movie is so very self-aware. It's not trying to bank itself on giving you in-depth characters and in-depth situations. It's just trying to give you that sort of nightmare-fueled environment and the nightmare-fueled world and mythology, and I think it really succeeds in what it was trying to do. So if you are a fan of these types of horror films, definitely go out there and see Mandy. I really enjoyed it, and based on the fact that visually it's absolutely outstanding. So if this sounds like your kind of thing, I thought it was very intelligently made, basically having a very simplistic and generic plot, but mixing it in with a very unique look that makes it a film that you feel as though you haven't seen, and so that takes some doing. And so overall, for Mandy, going to give this one 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.